Hi, and welcome to Leeward Renewable Energy. We are pleased to have you on our site. Whether you are joining our team of dedicated professionals that provide top quality asset management services to the wind power community or just visiting, everyone must complete a site orientation before work is to begin. The following information will guide you through a safe environment. Expectations on Leeward sites. Before work begins or entering any areas where work is in progress, you will be required to complete this safety orientation, site safety orientation, an emergency action plan, and review pertinent policies and procedures. Employees and contractors must attend Leeward site orientation annually. This training is to give you general information that you will allow you to perform your work at the site without endangering yourself, your coworkers, or the environment. Leeward Renewable Energy has a responsibility for your safety and health while on site, but so do you. This presentation is designed to give you the information you need to discharge that responsibility. Whether you are a Leeward employee, contractor, or subcontractor, you have a direct supervisor. This person is your primary contact to whom you should raise safety concerns. Worker qualifications must be vetted through the Leeward Safety Department. Core safety values. Leeward Renewable Energy is committed to providing a safe and healthy work environment for all employees, contractor, and subcontractor personnel. Wherever work is being carried out, Leeward will see to ensure compliance with all applicable laws, regulations, and standards. Safety is our #1 priority and defines our culture. We believe that all incidents and injuries can be prevented, and safety is a personal responsibility. Management is accountable for the results. And also, you have stop work authority. General requirements. You must comply with all site requirements upon arrival at site. You must comply with all EHS requirements explained in this orientation and pertinent documents presented by site management. Inspect all tools and equipment prior to use. Unsafe tools and equipment shall not be used. Only work on equipment you are qualified to work on. Only use approved chemicals or substances in suitable containers with labels showing content and any associated hazard. Dispose of all waste in accordance with site requirements. Report any near-miss, incident, accident, injury, or illness to your supervisor and Leeward Site Management as soon as possible. Do not work at any time when your ability is or may be impaired as a result of the use of legal prescription drugs, and do not bring chemicals or substances on site without management approval. Do not use any chemicals or substances without reviewing the SDS. Contractors' responsibilities. Before working at a Leeward site, a current copy of the Contractor Safety Program, including Drug and Alcohol Program, must be submitted to the Leeward Safety Department at safety@leewardenergy.com. Contractors' responsibilities are, but not limited to, use of trained employees, hazard communications, confined space entry, energy control, personal protective equipment, and drug and alcohol policy and screening. Contractors' written programs must meet or exceed Leeward's program, and Leeward's safety program is the primary program while on site. Conduct. The following list is not all-inclusive, but includes acts and behaviors which are prohibited and for which a person shall expect to receive disciplinary action. Obscene or abusive language, racial, gender, or ethnic slurs, immoral or indecent conduct, or sexual harassment. Deliberately damaging, defacing, or misusing site property or the property of others. Removing site property from the premises without appropriate authorization, and illegally possessing, selling, distributing, or manufacturing drugs on site. Drug and alcohol policy. Leeward is an alcohol and drug-free workplace. Employees are subject to a drug screening following an accident or an incident.
Leeward safety. Participation in any of these activities will result in personnel being escorted off-site with suspension pending an investigation or the permanent removal of any contract personnel. The plant manager of each site has been tasked with verifying that this information has been given to everyone working at their site. Removal from site pending investigation includes climbing without fall protection, riding the nacelle winch up or down the tower, being on top of the nacelle without fall protection and proper tie-off, climbing alone, not using proper electrical PPE, not using proper lotto and verifying energy when needed, refusing to take a drug test post-incident, and vandalism or theft of company property.
Weather conditions. Your emergency action plan must be reviewed for information on adverse weather conditions. For lightning. Lightning warnings reflect a 50-mile radius as an initial advisement to technicians that a storm is in the area, and a 30-mile radius will indicate an immediate weather stand-down. Technicians must stop work and head to their vehicles and to the O&M building if the storm does not subside. Stand-down directions will be clear and will be communicated when a storm reaches a 30-mile radius from the turbine. Site supervision will confirm all employees are down tower and accounted for. In the event of an emergency requiring evacuation, refer to the site emergency plan to locate the designated meeting place. Environmental information. On site, there are areas of exposure to hazards that include flora, fauna, and endangered species. Be aware and respectful of animals on site. Be aware and alert to any endangered and protected species on site. Report incidents to site management and visit with the site manager to find out what specific exposures are in the area. What do you need to do in case of spills? Take action to prevent spills in your work activity. Clean your work area at the end of each work period. Ensure that you put all waste in the appropriate container. Report any spills or incidents immediately to allow corrective action to be completed.
Site communication. All personnel shall have radio or cell phone communication at all times when working on leeward sites. A job safety analysis must also include and define lines of communication.
Contributing to safety. Know what to do in an emergency. Learn how to recognize and raise alarms. Learn whom to contact and where their numbers are posted. Find out where and how to use the fire extinguishers. Know which emergencies must be handled by trained personnel, and where to find and how to use first aid kits, eye washes, and AEDs.
Accident and injury reporting. All accidents or injuries must be reported immediately to the Leeward Safety Department and Director of Operations. Within 24 hours after verbal report, a Leeward accident report must be completed. All written accident reports must be sent to the Leeward Safety Department and Director of Operations.
The minimum PPE required outside of the O&M building is determined by potential hazards in work areas. To determine the level of PPE you are required to use, you must review Leeward's Personal Protective Equipment Program. All site personnel must stay within assigned areas of operation. These areas will include the turbines, roads, substations, or the O&M building. Restricted work areas shall be identified by barriers such as cones and restricted work area signage. The primary purpose of the restricted work areas is to promote safety to workers and motorists. Do not enter restricted work areas without permission. Keys to Life. The Keys to Life highlight hazards you may encounter and defines behaviors to maintain your safety. These items are Leeward's core beliefs of the safety program and must be complied with 100% of the time. Hazardous energy control, otherwise lockout-tagout. All sources of hazardous energy shall be properly identified, isolated, verified to have zero energy, and tagged out, locked out, prior to starting work. Do not manipulate isolated equipment or work on equipment without authorization. Dropped objects or falling objects. Implement prevention measures where there is a potential for dropped objects. Measures shall include, at a minimum, proper barriers, exclusion zones, and securing or tethering of tools and materials. Fall from elevation. Utilize fall protection equipment when required by the task. Inspect equipment before use and use it properly. Maintain 3 points of contact when changing elevation. Electrical safety. Treat all electrical equipment or systems as energized unless verified to be de-energized. Wear proper PPE and remove all metal jewelry prior to performing electrical work. Only qualified persons shall work near exposed energized equipment. Unqualified persons shall not open enclosures that contain exposed energized electrical parts or equipment. Maintain required distance from electrical equipment and conductors. Cranes, lifting, and rigging. Employees performing crane and rigging operations shall be qualified. Critical lifts shall be strictly controlled and accompanied by a critical lift plan. And never lift over personnel. Confined spaces. Enter confined spaces only after proper evaluation has been performed and appropriate controls have been put in place. Confirm acceptable atmospheric air quality prior to entry with an approved monitor. When required, a qualified attendant shall be present and an air quality monitor shall be in continuous use. Driving safely. Wear seatbelts, follow posted speed limits, and comply with regulations. Avoid distractions that would remove your focus from the road.
Rules of the road. Vehicles must stay on available gravel or dirt roads. Seatbelts must be worn at all times. Drive according to weather conditions. Vehicles must not be parked directly under the turbine while work is being performed above. Vehicles must park a minimum of half the rotor diameter from the turbine if feasible. Avoid standing or walking under a running turbine. And follow the posted speed limits at all times. If not posted, the maximum site speed limit is 15 miles per hour. Fall protection. When personnel are exposed to a fall hazard of 4 feet or greater, fall protection is required. Anchorage points, snap hooks, and D-rings are the main metal parts of a fall protection system. All 3 must have a tensile strength of 5,000 pounds. Anchor points allow a maximum fall of 4 feet. All personnel working will be required to be trained on the use of and wear their personal egress device with the fall protection at all times.
Rules for climbing. Fall protection, tower rescue, and annual first aid, CPR, AED training qualifications must be presented to site management before work is to begin. Only issued or authorized fall egress equipment must be used during tower or nacelle work. Equipment may not be altered and will be visually inspected each use. Faulty equipment will not be used. A ladder safety device, rope grab, or glider must be used to climb tower ladders. If there is not a safety cable in tower, you must lanyard climb maintaining 100% fall protection. Fall protection equipment that has sustained a fall or impact must be inspected by safety personnel before being reused. Serviceable lanyards or climbing belts will not be used for any reason other than fall arrest purposes. Unless pre-authorized, site personnel are not allowed to work at elevated locations exposed to winds over 40 miles per hour, 17.8 meters per second, over an average time of 10 minutes. Check with your plant manager to learn what the manufacturer's specifications are on wind speeds. A qualified person will be supported by at least one other qualified person. 2 qualified persons may climb together, or ground person. Provided there is a radio contact, one qualified person may climb the tower while a second qualified person remains down tower and acts as a ground person. Unless pre-authorized by the supervisor, no climbing or crane work is permitted on icy or snow-covered towers. Never stand or climb below any other climber. Only one person allowed on the ladder and safety cable at any given time. Site personnel prohibited from climbing or working on a turbine alone. A second person must be present, whose distance is at a minimum the base of the turbine tower. This requirement may be modified if a JSA is performed, which proves that other procedures can be put in place that demonstrate to be as safe. This is the plant manager's decision. Personnel must be in radio or cell phone contact before, during, and after climb. Working alone or working on a turbine that workers have not been trained on is prohibited. Anyone observed using the winch line for anything other than their intended purpose will be escorted off-site with suspension pending investigation or the permanent removal from all leeward sites. Electrical safety. Electrical work may only be performed by trained, qualified personnel. No repair work is allowed on any energized equipment above 50 volts without an energized work permit, and absolutely no repair work may be performed on energized equipment above 240 volts. For high voltage work, refer to the approved procedures and follow lockout-tagout procedures. No protective shields removed unless the shielded components are de-energized. Do not use extension cords or power tools or equipment when the cords are frayed, worn out, or bare wire is showing. Turn the equipment in for repair. Keep extension cords out of water and mud. No jewelry shall be worn when working with high voltage. Inspect electrical PPE prior to use. Qualified workers must adhere to the approach boundaries defined by the tables existing within the CFR 1910.269I and the NFPA 70E tables 130.4. Unqualified employees are not permitted to approach within 10 feet of energized equipment. This is to be measured in relation to a 10-foot measurement extending from personnel in any given direction to any conductive objects.
Substation work. In order to conduct substation work, you must be a qualified electrical worker with knowledge in assessing electrical hazards. Complete a job safety analysis defining electrical approach boundaries. You must have the proper voltage, arc, or cal-rated PPE for the work performed. Complete a work permit defining the scope of work with leeward supervision. Qualified workers must adhere to the approach boundaries defined by the tables existing within the CFR 1910.269I and the NFPA 70E tables 130.4 CB. Unqualified employees are not permitted to approach within 10 feet of energized equipment. This is to be measured in relation to a 10-foot measurement extending from personnel in any given direction to any conductive objects.
Energy isolation. Locks must be identifiable and exclusive to the individual using them. When multiple personnel involved in a lotto, each person must apply a lock. And lockout-tagout procedures must be equipment specific. Failure to comply with the lockout-tagout program will lead to disciplinary actions up to and including dismissal from site. Always test the equipment to be sure positive lockout has taken place. Crane and lifting operations. Personnel engaged in lifting shall be trained in lifting operations and the hazards associated. All lifting operations must be managed by a competent person to ensure the safety of those involved in the operation and others in the area. Training shall be conducted yearly. It shall cover leeward's lifting policy, including hazard recognition, sterile zone, rules, taglines, qualifications for crane operations, signalmen, and riggers. Hazards associated with lifting operations include boom failure, crane tip over, swing loads, falling objects, crushing, limb dismemberment, head injuries, and death. Rigging straps, cables, taglines, and other lifting components must be inspected prior to each lift. A minimum of 4 people must be involved prior to conducting any lift, and never stand underneath a suspended load.
As an employee or contractor, You are responsible, authorized, and obligated to stop any work you deem unsafe or work that violates a safety policy or procedure. You have stop work authority.
In conclusion of this orientation, you will have learned that EHS is everyone's responsibility. Incidents are caused, they don't just happen. EHS requires commitment, planning, and involvement, just like every part of your job. A safe environment is a productive environment. No job is so important that it cannot be done safely. And working safely is an attitude. Review the site orientation checklist to ensure all applicable areas have been discussed and applicable certifications have been received before any work begins. Thank you for your time.